Hey everybody. So as you can see, I'm restarting my YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm going to talk briefly about the past and future of this channel, some of my thoughts there, and then some quick thoughts about spaced repetition and how it specifically applies to piano practice, and hopefully how it'll help you to learn significantly faster, at least the beginnings of some of the thoughts there. And I hope for that to be one of the central themes of this channel, how to practice much more efficiently using various unique methods and strategies that I've developed. So up to this point, it's been mostly videos of me, I guess probably all videos of me playing. And the vast majority of the over 300, I think it's almost like 400 videos on here are from these challenges that I did in 2016, 2017. So in 2016, I did this project where I learned and memorized 100 pieces, and then I uploaded all of them to YouTube. And then in 2017, I did the same thing, but with 150 pieces. Maybe some of you found me through those means. And this was originally based off of something that Alyssa Milne created called the 40-piece challenge. And this was like a very repertoire-rich approach where both teacher and students, or, it could be the teacher as well, learn 40 pieces at least throughout the year. And it was proven to greatly improve sight reading, independence, understanding of style, understanding of many different rhythms and situations, and so on. And I just thought it would be a great challenge to not only learn a lot more, but also memorize everything, so I can test if the methodologies are actually working. And it really was a test of long-term planning and discipline as well. And at the time, I really didn't have a plan in terms of how that would affect my future studio. I just thought it was a worthwhile pursuit in terms of learning how to learn the best that I could. But in hindsight, it was as if I wanted to purposely prepare my current studio to be more inviting, right? Because as a result of doing the challenges, my methodologies were able to reach their current form partially, and then everybody was like, oh, these are very fleshed out ideas. And it's really because I had to iterate many times as I went through the process of learning all those pieces, and other projects as well. So I'll still be, or not still, but I'll be uploading YouTube shorts of my playing on a pretty regular basis. This is across other social media as well, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere. And the plan with these videos is, for the most part, going to be one video a week. And the content will center around my unique practice methodologies that I've mentioned, that I've spent over 15 years developing. Some of them since I was a teenager, others from the time I was a college student, or maybe even after I finished my master's and onward and so on. Thoughts about teaching, how to have students progress extremely quickly, with extremely high quality, and with an uncommon level of independence, right, within a much shorter amount of time. Thoughts on business as well, how I built a successful, unique piano studio these past 4 years, and thoughts on life and how all of these things are way more connected together than I had first thought. I really felt when I was working on the projects, like, oh, it's really great that I'm improving as a pianist, I'm improving the methodologies, but I really thought it only had a tangential relation to the running of a business. And then eventually, when I was learning how to create good policies for my studio, how to run things more efficiently in terms of the logistics of my job, that maybe had very little to do with the practice methods. And yet now I realize that it's really the exact same problem-solving skills, the exact same thinking outside of the box, taking things apart, putting them back together, and just sometimes purposely destroying and creating things over and over again, iterating. So definitely love to share some of my thoughts about that, and honestly, probably whatever other random things I feel like sharing, I'll share with you guys. there's a ton of videos and channels on practice now, even way more than there were 5 years or 10 years ago, of course. But, I feel and hope that I'll be able to bring a unique perspective and a unique value that hopefully will help people. So let me know if there's anything you're specifically interested in hearing about. You can email me at david@davidchangmusic.com. It's quite easy to reach me, and I'll be happy to use some of those thoughts for future video ideas and so on. So to understand spaced repetition and spaced practice, it's, I think, helpful to talk about massed practice first. And this is just like a huge mass of things, I guess, in terms of you are learning something and then just kind of doing that over and over and over again with no break. And I think it's easiest to understand this in terms of just a fact first. The example I always give, and if anybody is a student of mine, they will have probably heard me ask, what's the capital of Lithuania? The answer being Vilnius, because most people don't know that. And if I just repeat this fact to myself, right, the capital of Lithuania is Vilnius, over and over again, that obviously proves nothing except that it's in my short-term memory. I'm remembering it, of course, in the moment. It doesn't prove that I'll remember it later. It certainly doesn't prove it's in my long-term memory. And yet that's the way that people approach practicing music for some reason. They learn a given coordination and they think, I'd better play this about 40 times in a row now so I don't forget it. And then it's somewhat surprising and discouraging when they come back to it later. And then they think, well, this is just new. I just need to practice it more. That is true to some extent, but if they used spacing in their practice, they would be able to still learn significantly faster within whatever span of time those early beginning stages, comprise of. So I would say that in terms of spaced repetition, it's really about rapid forgetting and re-remembering. Whether you're purposely trying to do this or not, it's going to happen anyway. So this means that when you learn a given section, instead of just trying to do it 10 times or 30 times, you can learn it, do something else for 10 minutes, come back, relearn it all over again, watch TV for 10 minutes, come back, redo it all over again. And this would seem to be maybe discouraging to some, maybe even nonsensical to some. Maybe some of you have actually heard of some of these principles and already, or are applying them in some fashion already. But I would say, there's many, many different ways to apply this. It's not really just a blanket concept that just results in, for instance, this one application of practicing it, doing 10 minutes something else, practicing it, 10 minutes something else, and then coming back. There's many, many different lengths of time that you can experiment with, many different ways that you can interleave this way of practicing with other things that you're practicing, or even something that's not practicing at all. And some of this nuanced, creative thinking, I'd be very happy to start to go into more examples in future videos. But anyway, so as a function of doing something else, coming back, relearning it, every single time you are practicing this effort of retrieval, right? It's because your brain is spending this effort that neural connection and pathway is being reinforced. And that's really what's causing things to enter the long-term memory. So every single time that you forget and re-remember again, you're having to spend that effort, and then that pathway, like I said, is being reinforced. So once you know this, essentially it's a win-win situation. At least that's the way I like to think of it. As in, you do something else, you come back and you forget it, and you think, this is good because this is what I was trying to do. I know that the way that the brain works is that I have to forget and re-remember. So I'm not going to fight the way that, I'm biologically constructed. I'm going to use it to my advantage. And then if you remember it, of course, it's even better because that is what you were trying to do. So I think a lot of the time, even having heard this, sometimes students get a little lost or confused. They'll say oh, David, I did what you asked. I came back and I have forgotten everything, right? They're concerned it's not working. But when they say they've forgotten everything, I just say, good, because that's what we're purposely trying to do, really as many times as possible, this rapid forgetting and re-remembering. So it's maybe a bit simplistic to say, but forgetting and relearning it again, maybe 7 to 10 times in a day, could be like getting a whole week's worth of practice within that singular day. Now, memory does consolidate during sleep, as you might have heard. And so you could use this to your advantage too. You could take a whole bunch of things and then forget them overnight and then relearn all of them the next day and so on. So one way to think about it is you could try to cover more ground. Like you could learn like 20 or 30 different things and then forget all of them and then relearn all of those different things again the next day. That would be a good way to take advantage of just the way that we're naturally built. And naps are also very beneficial for memory, so you can even use that strategically. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I purposely take naps for the sake of my profession and for the sake of my learning at this point. So, like I mentioned, there's a lot of different ways that we can talk about utilizing it in the future. I'll just give like a few super quick ones now, apart from the explanation I gave already. So let's say hypothetically you've broken up something in a piece you're learning into 4 different sections. So you could choose to get the section to a pretty good quality after 5 minutes, and then let's say you continue to work on it for like another 15 minutes for a total of 20 minutes. Then you do the same thing with the next section, the same thing with the third, and then the same thing with the fourth. So you've practiced each one for 20 minutes, and then maybe that's the end of your practice for the day. But if you're aware of the spacing principle, once you've gotten that first section to a pretty good quality right after the 5 minutes, instead of then doing it over and over, just move on. Just do the second section. Spend 5 minutes, get it to a pretty good quality, and then move on. Third section, fourth section. Now you can go back to the first section, which you've forgotten, right? Because now there's been spacing. Now you spend 5 minutes to relearn it and do that again. Then the same thing with the second, then with the third, then with the fourth. So you'll get to cycle through these 4 sections 4 times. And you will have done each one in a 5-minute chunk, right? 4 times over. And even though it's the same amount of time, what the studies have shown is that this will lead to way better retention, even within this tiny little example of 80 minutes of practice. Although you should probably take breaks, you should take breaks within this span as well. So, yeah, so I think that's like a quick initial thought there. Another idea would be like on a global scale, like if you've put together like an entire piece, for instance, right? That's a big accomplishment. Could be tempting to then perform that a whole bunch of times, but you can make it fun, like space it out as much as you can. Like you can play the piece, perform it, like I said earlier, do something else, go outside, take a walk, come back, and then, perform the piece. And then if it doesn't go well, then you can work on aspects of it, make it stronger, wait until right after dinner, and then try to perform it again. So each time that you do this, each time that you have to perform and then fix the errors that went wrong, and you're repeating this process, it's going to make the piece stronger. Now, another element that could come up there is performance practice, honestly, in terms of like handling your nerves and handling the continuity. That's also something I'd be very happy to talk about another time soon. So yeah, hope some of these initial thoughts are helpful, and love to hear any thoughts in the comments. Be very grateful if you liked, subscribed, let other people know that I'm starting this kind of series on practice techniques and teaching and other ideas along these lines. And yeah, looking forward to next week.